Hello, Matthew Copley with Copley Financial Group. And as promised, I'm going to do a recap today of what's going on in Davos, Switzerland at the World Economic Forum. I'm getting a lot of calls, a lot of clients asking about what's going on. They're talking about things like the Great Reset and the New World Order and all these things. So I want to really put all the information out there so you understand what's legitimate, what's not legitimate, what's going on over there in Davos, Switzerland, so you can understand and how it might impact the financial markets and investments and what we're doing. So we're watching it and we're keeping an eye on it. We're putting our clients in the right spot to account for it. But essentially what's going on over there is in June of 2020, a big initiative was released. This is the Great Reset. And this is run by a guy named Klaus Schwab, who runs an organization called the World Economic Forum. And essentially, all these billionaires and politicians from around the world get together in Davos, Switzerland. And they do this a few times over the course of the year at different locations. And Davos is a popular one. It's a great spot in the middle of Switzerland in the wintertime, big ski destination. So I'm sure that a lot of it is they want to get together and have a big party in a really nice spot in the middle of Switzerland in the wintertime. And so what this is all about is these people get together, they give speeches, they talk about, how they want to change the world and where they're trying to take us as far as a society and as a culture. And so I'm going to talk about some of the things they've been talking about at the World Economic Forum. I have their agenda, so I'm looking at all the things that they are doing at the World Economic Forum, and so we can talk about what they are. And so I'm going to give you some words and some things that they're talking about, and that way I can explain and you can understand what that means. So one of the things they're talking about is creating a new international monetary system. This is where we have a new currency. And really what this means is they want to get rid of the current system, which is really the US dollar. Ever since the global petrodollar started really in the 1970s when Saudi Arabia started selling all the oil in dollars. This created a real need for US dollars around the world, and the dollar became the global reserve currency. And of course, right now, the United States has the unique power to be able to create dollars. And so what this does is it allows the United States to live beyond its means. We can create dollars out of thin air, and we can use those dollars to buy products and things from around the world, and it benefits the people here in the United States. And the people there in Davos, Switzerland, and of course a lot of them Europeans and people from other places in the world say, that's not fair. We need a global system. And what they're really trying to push for is a digital system that allows for more control. One of the biggest problems, of course, with the US dollar is that it's anonymous and someone could use cash dollars. And of course, they try to control it through the banking system as far as big deposits and things like that within the banking system. But they'd really like to be able to control it. So a digital dollar is preferable. This is what they're trying to put together. They're trying to put together what's called a basket of currencies. So not just the US dollar, they want to have multiple currencies that are part of this basket that they can control. And this way, if a country wants to debase their currency or spend more than they're taking in, it'll affect them more because everything will be tied to this basket of currencies. So that way it'll kind of encourage countries to behave and not spend too much. And so that's the idea behind this, is just creating more control. And of course, it'll be promoted as, hey, we're going to protect people from the bad actors like the drug dealers and people that are doing different stuff with dollars, and we'll be able to track and go after those people and so on and so forth. I really don't think the cryptocurrencies, which obviously have taken a big hit, are going to have anything to do with this because the government wants to control that digital currency. And of course, with Bitcoin and other things, they don't have that control. So I do not believe it's going to be using a blockchain ledger-based system that they have. I think it's going to be more of a global control, a government promoted system. One thing that has really come out of this meeting, which is really big, is Saudi Arabia has announced that they are open to start selling oil and things other than US dollars. And this is a huge moment. Not a lot's being talked about in the mainstream media, but this is a big deal because if countries around the world can start purchasing Saudi Arabian oil in something other than dollars, the US dollar is not going to be as important as a global trade unit. And so this obviously is going to impact the United States and our standard of living and so on and so forth. So that announcement, I think, was really, really big. And I don't think Saudi Arabia would have announced that if they didn't have the backing of China. And so I think China is obviously a big part of this. They're pushing this Belt and Road Initiative where they're connecting the whole world under their own trade network, and they are trying to extract a lot of these important countries that have a lot of resources, like Saudi Arabia, out of the US dollar system and into the Chinese system. So this includes countries that have a lot of rare earths, like Afghanistan, and countries in Africa that have a lot of resources, in the Middle East with oil, so on and so forth. So that's a big thing. The other thing you'll hear a lot about that they're talking about, that's a big thing at the World Economic Forum, is sustainable energy. And what that means is they want to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, what they consider dirty energy, and they want to go to clean energy. The problem with this is clean energy, there's not enough wind and solar to generate the energy needs. And so what they have to do is they have to regulate and tax and heavily push against fossil fuels to drive up the prices, and then create subsidies and regulations and tax breaks for clean energy. So this will promote countries and companies to create more clean energy. And the idea is, as more clean energy is developed, hopefully technology will come along and it'll improve and it'll get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper as time goes on. But at this point, I think we're just going to have higher energy prices for quite some time because of this. The idea is we got to protect the planet, and that's why they're pushing this. And of course, another big thing that's coming out of this, and this also came out of the Bilderberg meeting in Washington, D.C. earlier in 2022, is this idea that one of the biggest problems with energy consumption is the fact that people eat so much meat. And so meat production is a big deal. In order to get a cow that you can eat, you have to produce tons and tons and tons of grain to feed that cow. In fact, way more grain is used feeding livestock than is consumed by people. And so by reducing meat consumption, you are going to be reducing the impact on the planet. And so that's the idea. And so there's a lot going on with this. There's an initiative, MOAW, which is Meat Once a Week. You can go to that meatonceaweek.org on the website and read all about it. The idea is to push just eating meat once a week. And of course, the idea is to drive up the cost of meat and drive down the cost of plant-based diets. And so you probably will see a big change. Meat will continue to become a lot more expensive. We'll also have a lot of alternatives. For example, they just approved in Europe cricket powder, which is going to now start being used in all kinds of foods, in bread and processed foods, crackers, different stuff. So they'll start using cricket powder in Europe, and this will be something I'm sure that they'll start promoting here in the United States as well. There's actually a pilot program in the United Kingdom where they're giving school children different mealworms and crickets and different things as far as trying to make it normal to eat bugs. And so this is something that is going on, and there's a pilot program right now in the United Kingdom to do that. So at the end of the day, it means higher energy prices, higher meat prices. This will benefit, some companies within that industry as prices go up and they're producing these things. You'll see profits go up. At the same time, you'll see a lot of regulation and things coming in trying to push down the producers and regulate them and tax them and so on and so forth. So it'll be a push and pull over time for energy and meat production, I believe. The other big word that you're going to hear a lot is stakeholder capitalism. The idea behind this is not new. The idea behind stakeholder capitalism is you have a lot of stakeholders within the economy that are producing different things. And if a company produces like a new technology or something that's going to benefit people, they don't want the old system where that company would be able to become very wealthy by selling their new product or their new service or their new idea and create more wealth for themselves and their shareholders. they want that company to have to share everything with everyone else, so even their competitors. So the idea is to have a system where there are stakeholders and everyone benefits from new technology, new things. In other words, less traditional capitalism, but more of a social capitalism, and they're calling it stakeholder capitalism. One other thing that you hear a lot is social contract, and how people in society have a social contract. And the idea behind a social contract, which you heard a lot with the COVID vaccines, was we have a social contract. Everyone has to get vaccinated in order to protect everyone else. This whole idea of a social contract, they want to put this in the economy. So there were a lot of speeches that were given regarding the social contract and the economy, and the idea of filling unmet needs. And so, for example, if we don't have enough healthcare workers, if we don't have enough teachers, if we don't have enough of a certain group that they want in society, or they feel like they need, they want to tell people, you need to go become a doctor. And so this isn't new. They did this in the Soviet Union. It really has not had a whole lot of success, and that's why the Soviet Union had very few brain surgeons and a lot of janitors, because it was a lot easier to become a janitor. And it's difficult for the government and for these regulatory bodies to determine what a brain surgeon should make as far as income, and whether we'd even have a brain surgeon without capitalism. And the idea is the free market would allow for that brain surgeon to make extreme amounts of money compared to a janitor. And so because of that, it's an incentive for that person to spend all the time and effort and schooling and everything they need to become a brain surgeon. So the idea behind it is if we don't have enough brain surgeons, we're just going to tell people, no, we need more brain surgeons, we need more doctors, you're going to become a doctor. And there'll probably be an incentive-based system. It probably won't be like a forced system, kind of like they did in areas of Russia and China in the past. That'll be more of an incentive-based, where if you go do this, you'll get some kind of a benefit. But the idea is a social contract for the greater good of society and to fill the areas of the economy that we need. One other thing they're talking a lot about is cooperation, not competition. And the idea behind this is a good one, to get rid of war. They want to eliminate war. They want everyone in the world to be cooperating and have a stake in society, and not competition. They want cooperation. And so the idea is if you have all these different countries producing all these resources, everyone is kind of reliant on each other, and this will maybe prevent wars. So of course they want to get rid of bad actors. They want to get rid of the Putins of the world, people like that maybe aren't playing along with the system, and they want to try to eliminate war. Now, one of the things that I think is important for you to understand is, in order to implement this kind of a system that they're talking about, that they're promoting in Davos, Switzerland, you're going to need some kind of a crisis to really impact the current. You're not going to get a new world order unless people are upset with the current world order. And so, and I see this with a lot of speeches. One in particular, Larry Summers gave a speech, was really interesting, talking about how we just need to keep raising interest rates and inflation is going to be bad, and they talked about how inflation's coming down now, and then it's going to spike up, and then it's going to come down, and then it's going to spike up. And I think he's probably right, but I think that there may be a reason for this kind of crisis to come about. At the end of the day, if you want to create a new world order, people have to be upset with the current world order and say, I want change, I want things. So obviously, if we get some kind of a major recession due to war or different things that are going on, or economic downturn or debt, it'll give these global elites and these politicians the dry powder to launch a great reset that they're trying to do. So one other thing I heard a lot at the World Economic Forum and the agenda, and looking at what they're talking about, is the great narrative. And this is a new thing that Klaus Schwab is talking about. He was talking about the Great Reset a few years ago. Now he's talking about the great narrative. And this is about controlling what people can see and what's available online and so on and so forth. It's censorship. And the idea is to not let people go off into these different areas. They want to control how people think and promote what they're trying to do. And so, of course, there was a lot of speeches against Elon Musk and Twitter and free speech. They really want to control things. And of course, a lot of the regulators there in Europe gave speeches about how they're going to, eliminate Twitter in Europe because they're a free speech platform. And of course, they say it in a way that, hey, we love free speech, but only the free speech we want you to hear, kind of a thing. So that's what we're seeing a lot of at the World Economic Forum. And my thoughts on this whole thing, and I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible, just looking at what's out there and so letting you know what we're seeing, is that I think a lot of it is arrogance. I think a lot of powerful people and billionaires throughout history have thought that they could come up with a better system. And I think that they think that this is going to help society and help culture and eliminate war and help the planet and sustainable energy. It all sounds great. But the problem is I don't know if they're going to be successful, because a lot of these people think that they are smarter and more important than they really are. And typically, you don't think about certain things. There's unintended consequences. You do certain things, and there's unintended consequences that come from that. And so I don't know if the world is ready. I don't know if we have the technology and the connection to be able to launch some kind of a new world order where you have this global cooperation and global network. I just think that we have to kind of see how it plays out. It's not going to change overnight. It's not going to be something where we wake up one day and we're part of this new world order. It's going to gradually be implemented over time, and there will be pushback from people that don't like certain things, and there'll be concessions and different things that happen. And also, you have to understand that there is a big push right now by what we call the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and really China, that's pushing an alternative system. They want to get out of the US dollar. They want to get out of the SWIFT system. They don't want to be punished for things that they do. For example, if China invades Taiwan, I'm sure that the people of China will be treated the same way that Putin and all the people there in Russia were treated with this Ukraine war. So I think they want to try to extract themselves from this system. And when you have Russia and China and these other countries, which represent a large portion of the population of the world and a large part of the gross domestic product of the world, that's a pushback against this whole New World Order idea. So if you have this group that's trying to push this narrative and these changes, and you have this group that's trying to do their own narrative and their own changes, it could create conflict. And hopefully this doesn't end in a hot war or something that is really bad. But obviously the war in Ukraine seems to be escalating. Just this week they announced tanks that are going to go into Ukraine, and these kind of escalations can kind of push this stuff together. So that's what they're talking about over there in Davos, Switzerland at the World Economic Forum. I'm watching what's going on. At the end of the day, all we can do is kind of see how this plays out and adjust our investments and everything with all those things in mind. And this isn't, by the way, sometimes people, this is conspiracy theory. It's not. It's all, you can read the agenda. You can go to meetonceaweek.org. You can read what they're all talking about doing. And whether you agree with it or not, at the end of the day, this is what is being promoted by a lot of very powerful, wealthy people. And so you have to be mindful of what they're trying to put together and why, and put your investments in the right spot to adjust. And for those of you that are financial clients of ours, we're putting you in a great spot, and we're looking at all of these things. And for those of you that are not financial clients of ours, give us a call. One of our advisors can certainly chat with you about how to invest and navigate the current world that we're in. And we'll see how all this plays out with the Great Reset and the great narrative and all the stuff they're talking about. But it is something that I encourage you to take a look at and spend your own time. You're not going to get a lot of this information from the mainstream media, so you're going to have to put in your own effort to go on the internet and do your own research and see what you think. But at the end of the day, I hope that was helpful, and I hope that answered a lot of questions for people that are calling, asking me about this. And be careful out there. There's a lot of stuff that you start to go on and look, and they take you off in just crazy directions that aren't true and aren't accurate. And so be careful. You want to definitely take a look and don't trust anything you read without confirming and taking a look at what's behind it. So that said, hope that was a great video on the World Economic Forum and what's going on in Davos, Switzerland. Again, if you have any questions, just give us a call and we'll be happy to help.